Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we have a guest from all the way across the world over in Sydney. I love talking to my Australian friends on this podcast, Brendan Lee, and we're going to talk about improving your digital ads with a checklist. Who doesn't love a good checklist? Am I right? But we're going to dive right in. Brendan, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brendan.
So this is a topic we got to chatting about it before we started recording, and it seems kind of like a no-brainer, but then I meet people like you who actually exist, which makes me believe that, well, people probably aren't thinking about this, right? So can you just explain for me how you bridge the gap between the different angles, I guess, people take in running ads?
Yeah, so I think, Google and Facebook have both done an incredible job convincing everybody how easy it is to run ads on their platform. And that is technically very, very true. It is really, really easy to set up an ad. The technical side of it, they've tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. So there's plenty of businesses out there doing it for themselves. But that doesn't mean that they should, or more importantly, it doesn't mean that they've given it much strategic thought or time. And essentially, that is kind of where my tips are going to come in today. It's about the difference between whether you are able to do something and whether you've sort of really thought it through or have the expertise to do it well.
Yeah, that's always a good place to start with anything. I've done a number of DIY construction projects in my life, and I think they're fun. And there was a relatively low risk of someone getting killed. Although as they got more serious, I definitely called in help to make sure, well, nobody was going to get killed or a house wasn't going to get flooded or something like that. So I guess the stakes aren't as high in running digital ads, but your business could go out of business and you could waste all your money. So we could make an argument either way. So the other thing that I saw here on your application here was the importance of human connection in a digital business world. How does that overlap with your ad strategy?
Yeah. So I started, I've been in this industry now for over 20 years. And so I started well before digital existed. It was all magazine ads and running trade shows and things like that. And I think from that perspective, I like to think that not that much has changed, but people have just got lost in the noise. And at the end of the day, the effective campaigns that I've run are the ones that still consider the fact that at the other end of whatever digital channel you're using, there's still a human that needs to have this connection. So don't lose sight of that. Don't, just go ahead and go, if I just get 100 people on this website, then one of them will click. It's kind of like, well, maybe none of them will if you don't actually, make that connection on the human side.
Yeah, I love that focus because I think we tend to get distracted by the tools that we're using. Not to make this whole episode about construction here, but no, I mean it's obvious that there's a difference, right, between a magazine and Facebook, for example, or Google. They're two completely different things. But at the end of the day, I mean, a good ad is a good ad. Good connection with people is a really good connection with people. And I think that does tend to get lost in the noise, like you said. So really curious to hear your take on this. So let's dive in. What are these 3 checklist items that we need to have in place?
Yeah, absolutely. So checklist item number 1 for me, it kind of lends to this human side of it, is know who it is that you want to talk to. You'd be stunned how many business owners I talk to and I say, who is your best customer? And I hear the same response. Oh, anybody can be my customer. Oh, I'm a mortgage broker. Anybody can be my customer. Or I sell candy. Anyone can be my customer. And I was like, well, I didn't ask you who could be your customer. I asked you who's your best customer. Because at the end of the day, that little distinction is who you should be advertising to. So there's lots of different ways to approach that. In my business, we run through workshops to identify what we would call an ideal customer persona. And we do it on two different fronts. We do it on one side where we look at the demographics of somebody, and that's the most common thing that you're going to see. Somebody's going to say, "Oh yeah, great, I've done an ideal customer persona. It's a 30 to 40-year-old male who works in a white collar job, etc., etc., lives in this place." Those are important because that's the tools that you're going to need to actually track that person down digitally or target that person digitally. But what's also important to not neglect is that psychological side of it. So, commonly, what are their pain points? Like, what is it that's actually frustrating this person? Because if you can't pinpoint that, you're not even going to grab their attention in the first place. What is it that they aspire to? That's another way to capture their imagination or stop the scroll when they're seeing an ad. And then beyond that, I also like to psychologically go, well, what is this person's sort of personality type, or what's their motivational makeup? Because that's pretty important too. I give the example a lot where, and it's probably evident in this, where I've framed this as a checklist, but that's my type of personality, right? Like I'm a very tick a box, orderly, but other people are not like that. They'll want to jump on something or get excited about something at the spur of the moment. So again, you need to know who you're appealing to. If you try to appeal to me and say, "Brendan, I've got this once in a lifetime 30-minute phone call you could book with me," I'll just be like, "I don't care. I don't have time for 30 minutes. But if you offered me a checklist, I'd be all over that." So it's about understanding that. So that's point number one.
I like that. So if you were to meet a client or someone reaches out to you and you ask them that question, do you have your ICP set up? And they say yes. What would you need to see that they already have in place in order to accept what they have? Because the other side of that is, like you said, yeah, we could sell to everyone or 40 to 50-year-old males. Like, obviously that's not going to cut it. What are those key pieces of information that you would sign off on it?
Yeah. So definitely, that's the framework that I identified earlier. So for me, it's really important. I need to hear 3 pain points. I need to hear 3 aspirational goals. I need to hear their responsibilities, be both professional and in life. So I guess what I mean by that is are they responsible for a team of people at work? Are they responsible for a family of children at home? All these sorts of things will definitely play a part into how you're going to capture this person's attention. And then lastly, and the most important one I said is the personality type. Find a way to understand that personality type, and that will become self-evident in one of the other next bits where I basically, in step 2, or as a segue to step 2, is I say you need to be able to create something that is of value to this person. So I think the one thing about digital, if anything, is it has created more noise, which means it's so much harder to cut through. It's so much harder to grab attention, but then it's also so much harder to convince somebody to take an action. Like, I feel like you're just assaulted with offers all day long. You're assaulted with information all day long, and it just creates fatigue for the audience. You've sort of you're on the bus on the way to work, or you've got 2 minutes in between a meeting, and so you just jump on your phone. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the mindset to convert or to take an action. So what I do say is you need to then match something of value to that ICP personality type. So the example I gave before, like, if you're going to get me, for instance, it's got to be something that's orderly, or a list, or template. That type of thing is going to appeal to my personality type. But if somebody is a sort of relationship built driven type person, then maybe they want to see a video, where you explain a process through for 10 minutes, and maybe that's something of value to them.
So is it safe to say that you're going to listen to this episode because the title is 3 checklist items to improve your digital ads?
Absolutely. Yep.
You get a pass if you don't listen to it. That's awesome. So step 2, or item 2 on the checklist, is creating something of value. I love everything you said so far, and that's it makes
Yeah.
complete sense. No one's going to click on an ad that says buy my stuff now for, milk is 5 cents a quart. I think those days are over. People don't
Yeah.
just look at the magazine that has the things that they need to buy. We have so
Yeah.
many more options these days. Um,
Yeah.
can you give me
Yeah.
some maybe creative or outside the box things of value that either you have helped create for your clients or your clients have created and then used with success in their ads?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I would say is 9 times out of 10, when I say that you need to offer something of value, clients inevitably go, okay, great, well, we'll give them a discount. And I was like, that's not what I said. Price isn't necessarily the trigger that you think it is, or it's not the differentiator you think it is. And it might not necessarily be value. Like if somebody doesn't see value at your product 100%, are they going to see it at value if it's 30% off? They still haven't really established that value at any point. So some of the things that we've built that are a little bit outside the box, we do a lot of calculator tools. So again, for the certain personality type, that can be what they're looking for. If somebody's sort of just fishing around, or they just want to get a rough estimate on something, that can be one of the hardest things to get on the internet these days, because you've got people who are afraid to give you a quote, or afraid to put their pricing transparently online. And I don't disagree with those two things. That I'm not saying those two things should be done by every business, but there's a long way between giving somebody nothing and no idea what you cost versus giving them a quote that they could hold you to. And so that's something that we've done quite a lot for a lot of clients, is go, well, let's just understand. Like a lot of the time, you can understand what are the three big variances to establish what somebody needs from you, and then just give somebody a ballpark from there. So one of my clients, for instance, they build stands for trade shows. Now, it's fully customized. So, no two things are the same. Every stand is different to down to the dollar. But what we were able to do was give their prospects a general idea, and we actually just did it with pictures. We just went, so we could just, a lot of the time it's how big is your stand? So obviously we just ask a question like, well, how many square footage have you got? But then we'd show a couple of pictures and be like, well, do you expect your stand to be like this, with loads of LED screens and lots of lighting, et cetera, et cetera? Or do you expect it to be, something that's a little bit more low key? But, by helping somebody guide themselves through what they wanted, they were able to give a bit of a ballpark pricing. So it was less about price judging against competition and more just about saying, look, if this is what you're in the market for, you should be ready to spend within this range.
Yeah, I think stuff like that too. It also helps people in different phases of the buying process. I mean, I'm thinking about a time where I, like, within the last 2 weeks, used a similar calculator for something that I'm not even remotely close to buying. But it's
Yeah.
good for me to be able to plan that out. It's going to be like a 12 to 18-month purchase. If I were to get on the phone with somebody, I'm wasting their time. And
Yeah.
it's like, and I'm going to feel bad. So I'm not going to pick up the phone, and I'm never going to have that call. It doesn't make any sense. So you can guide and educate people through that process. But now, hey, look, I'm in their email systems. I'm still
That's it.
interested in this thing. So I'm not going
Yep.
to unsubscribe. They're not spamming me.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of value in that. That's a really interesting approach. So I'm glad you said that. So
Yeah.
number 3, what is the final item on this checklist that's going to increase our ad conversions?
Yeah. It's the simplest one, but it's the one that most people neglect, which is make sure you're tracking data. But that goes for online and offline. The term I use with my clients all the time is we need to close the loop. If we're going to do anything, I need to know at the end of it whether it worked, whether it didn't work, why, which part of it broke down. That's the only way for us to improve, optimize, and make any campaign get better. So I think the biggest secret is that I don't know everything, and quite frankly, I must say I don't know anything. My goal is to create a plan, learn from the results, tweak it, improve it, and that's how we get to where we need to get to.
Yeah. What are those sort of key data points that you're looking for? I'm always curious because I know it varies by ad, by industry, by everything that you're doing, but um, some people get thousands of clicks a day on their ad because they're spending enough money. Some people get 2 clicks a month. I don't know. I mean, you can have so many different variables, and the volume of them could be so different. How
Yeah.
do you know what you're looking for to really move the needle in the right direction for the client?
No, absolutely. So this is the human thing that I was talking about. It's important to know what you're trying to track, and then try to actually delineate slight variations within either your website or your Facebook profile or the ads that you're running. So, as an example, like I do some work with real estate agents, and one of them I remember very clearly coming to me before, and they were just like trying to sell these properties in a regional area of Australia, and I was saying to them, your ads right now, they just tell me exactly where the property is. They tell me how many bedrooms and bathrooms and square meters it is. I go, but I was like, who do you expect to buy the property? And they were like, well, sometimes I get investors and sometimes I get first home owners who can't afford to live in the metro areas. And I was like, those are two completely separate people, right? If we harken back and talk about pain points and aspirations and all that sort of stuff, completely different buyers. And I was like, so you can't just show them the same ad. And so, I guess what that means is that we set them up so that they were seeing different ads, but we also set them up so that they were driving to slightly different landing pages on websites. And we also set them up so that they were driving to different end actions as well. So what I mean by that is with investors, we actually set up regular sort of events or meetings. And our theory behind that was, this is for the first home buyer. If you're a first home buyer, you've never done this before. So you're a little bit apprehensive. You're probably feeling like you don't know enough. So our theory was, hey, let's get you in a room with like-minded people. Let's make you feel a little bit more comfortable. Let's also make you see that there's a bit of urgency or comfort around this with other people. And that worked really well. But then similarly, you want to get a time poor investor who's got 7 other properties into a room for 2 hours of a night. Like, it's just never going to happen. Like, that would be the worst offer to make. So, we had a very different offer for them. But so all of those different data points, so it's not like we just went, hey, there's 1,000 clicks. We knew that, all right, these were clicks for this audience and these were clicks for this audience.
I feel like that was a masterclass within the masterclass here, because I'm not in digital advertising. I don't do anything with ads. But I do see some of our clients who, they approach advertising with the lens of, well, I need to speak to different audiences, but then they go to the same place, and you can't really judge that. So your ads may get clicks and technically your conversion rate might be good, but then when they land on the same static web page, it's not speaking to any of them, which is a problem you addressed in point number 1. So I love that you explained it that way, because it makes so much more sense to paint different paths for very specific people. I don't think enough people do that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
If anything, the things that have changed, I mean, I sort of said that I want marketing to still be as human as it was when I started 20 years ago. But the thing that has absolutely changed is that you do have this option, and it's cost effective still to be that personalized. I'm one of those, I guess I'm sort of drinking the Kool-Aid, but I love the personalization and the creepy tracking that is done in ads, because then I get to see things that are relevant to me when I'm seeing an ad.
Yeah, no, that makes
crazy.
you a weirdo for sure.
Yeah.
You are off the deep end.
I use it to my advantage. My wife is not in this industry and doesn't know how it works, and I'm desperate to get a puppy in our household. So when she walks out the room, I'm just yelling at Siri, just puppies, and she gets ads. She gets these ads for like puppy things. She's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know.
Awesome.
I don't know what's happening."
That's a brilliant way to use it. Let's leverage the technology we have, right? Well, Brendan, this was awesome. I want to put your website on the screen here. I know you have a gift for for our audience. Do you do any work in the States? We do have a lot of international listeners. I will say that, a lot of Kiwi fans right next to you over there in New Zealand. But
Excellent.
where are your clients typically from?
Yeah, no, we do have global clients. We have a couple of clients in the US. We have a whole bunch in Singapore as well. So, I think that, again, the beauty of digital is that it is global, it travels well. Humans are humans, businesses are businesses all the world around.
I love it. So tell me what's at this website, conversions.today. For those of you listening, it's down in the show notes below, but what will somebody find if they go there?
Yeah, look, this is the page that we just put together with a whole bunch of our free tools. So, we have benchmarks, we have blueprints, we have white papers. So as I talked about, sort of personality types, hopefully there's something for everyone. You can find something that's going to be useful for how you choose to digest information, but also where your business is at or where your team is at. And then obviously you can always reach out to me. My contact details are on that page too. So I love having a chat, obviously.
I love it. Awesome. I appreciate you being here. We'll put all of that and all of Brendan's links and social media, whatever we have, down in the show notes below, wherever you're watching or listening. Thanks for joining us on Harmonious at Lunch. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.